Our next layer in bridging our gap between our young person with autism and a career is to align them to a near-ideal career. A few years back, my nephew got married, and my sister asked if my son could help make Italian cream sodas at the bar for guests at the reception, along with my nephew and a friend of his. The three boys were given instructions on how to make Italian cream sodas, and before long they had worked out a process and everything was running perfectly. Christian in particular was doing wonderfully. He was confident, he was communicating flawlessly with the other two boys and with the guests. Everything was structured, he knew what to say and what to do. It was like social engagement with an instruction manual. He was thriving. This was very clearly a strength ecology. Later in the evening, the bar closed down, dance music came up, and everyone went outside to dance. This was the exact opposite circumstance, a very fluid, open-ended social situation where it's much more difficult to know what to say and what to do. It's life without an instruction manual. My son tried to engage in conversation, busted out a few Michael Jackson dance moves, and not long after we found him by himself in the parking lot. This was very clearly a gap ecology. So here we have, side by side, occurring in a matter of hours, two dramatically different ecologies and two dramatically different outcomes. To generalize this, their Italian cream soda bar careers, not that they are all structured, though I will argue most people on the spectrum do better in those kinds of environments, but I'm referring to any work ecology where there is a high degree of alignment to strengths and where the work ecology is compatible with the individual's needs and preferences. And there are careers like the dance environment, in this example, that are poorly aligned. Those aligned to a career in which their strengths far outweigh their non-strengths have a better chance of success because the strength-non-strength gap is small enough to manage successfully. We can apply the 80-20 rule here. If 80% of the work is aligned to strengths, then we can manage the 20% gap in non-strengths. The problem occurs when individuals are not aware of this equation and they step into careers in which the strength-non-strength equation works against them. The gap is simply too big to bridge, or they are simply not aware of the gap, and hence have no means or awareness to be able to manage that. Poor career alignment isn't just a problem with young people with autism. Many, if not most young people, don't substantially examine careers in terms of suitability. However, because the strengths and non-strengths of people on the spectrum are typically more asymmetrical, both the strengths and the non-strengths, it's more crucial to first understand strengths and then align to a career that plays heavily to those strengths. The goal is to blind people, employers, fellow workers, customers, with strengths versus being blinded by weaknesses. One note. While it can be argued that any real-world work experience is useful in teaching basic work skills and helping young people make adaptations to the workplace, we need to be a little careful. The individual with autism may land a menial job, only to find that even though it's a job that has a low skill requirement, it may not be aligned to their strengths. They might even have a significant non-strength in an area that is important to the job, like customer service. If the individual fails, it's particularly disheartening to the individual because they failed at a job that was below their skill level. Furthermore, the parent and the placement agency or coach or future employer may assume that because the low skill position didn't work, the employment expectation should be lowered. In fact, in many cases, especially in the case of a high-functioning individual, they should do the exact opposite. Look for a job with a higher skill requirement or a specialized skill set that is aligned to their strengths. Gaps in behaviors or skills or abilities, especially innate abilities, are very hard to close. At the end of the day, we're fairly hardwired. I spent the better part of my career dealing with the issue of closing performance gaps, and I found it's much easier to hire the right person than it is to train someone who isn't a great fit. So there are basically two ways of approaching gaps. We can invest heavily in fixing gaps by focusing on weaknesses, training, coaching, corrective actions, and as a culture that's kind of what we're conditioned to do, or we can align the individuals to a career that has the smallest gap possible to begin with. That's by far the better choice. The other element of alignment deals with ecology. In addition to making sure individuals align to a career that is exceptionally aligned to their strengths, we need to make sure that the work ecology is a near perfect fit. When we consider what comprises a work ecology, it's the relation of the individual to the people in the work environment, the types of people, the level and types of interactions, the level of independent versus collaborative work, etc. It includes the structure of the ecology, the level of structure, the level of directedness, the level of precision, the maturity of processes, procedures, and systems, etc. And it includes the physical environment itself, the number of people, the noise level, the type of lighting, anything that could aggravate or overstimulate or otherwise affect the ability of the individual to function within that environment. These are all considerations that really don't get factored in as individuals consider not just a career, but discrete workplaces. Again, given the right ecology, individuals on the spectrum can perform equally well, if not better than their peers. But again, because they're not adaptive to a broad range of work situations, the level of mindfulness, the level of calibration must be better than it is with individuals not on the spectrum.